So I normally make content about hypnosis, NLP, mindset. My TikTok is filled with that. So is this YouTube channel as I get started. But today I want to talk about long COVID. And I'm talking about this because I came down with at least a mild version of long COVID in 2021. And I want to talk about that because since that time, I pretty much recovered from that, I would say nearly 100%. Maybe not fully, but pretty darn close. And I want to share some of the things that work for me related to that. I want to talk about the top 3 things that work for me. And I'm not going to bring up really any supplements today. Number 2 is kind of supplement related. In future videos, I'll talk maybe about some of the supplements, but these are the 3 top things that I think absolutely made a difference and put me over that hump to finally say that I've left long COVID behind, and I'm very excited about that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a research scientist. I do work in education. I'm very scientifically minded. Like I said, I'm a hypnotist. I have multiple degrees, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a research scientist. What I'm saying is something that I believe worked for me. That's all I'm saying. I believe it worked. I can't prove it. I haven't done tests to prove any of these things work. I know that long COVID is one of those things there's not a lot of research on. Unfortunately, that's a shame. But I want to start by sharing my story. I got COVID in 2021. I got the Delta variant of COVID. I didn't get COVID prior to that. The Delta variant hit me hard. I haven't been sick like that in a long time. It was 2 solid weeks, like solid 2 weeks of high fever, exhaustion, chills, losing my sense of smell for a lot of that, very fatigued. I was traveling during that time some, and I remember one of the times I just was passing a rest stop, and I literally just thought I could pull over right now and literally sleep in the grass. That's how tired I was. Plus, it was a warm day. It kind of felt nice, the idea of sleeping in the warm grass. So COVID, I did get COVID pretty significantly. I don't think I was ever in danger of dying or anything like that, but I got it pretty significantly. I didn't really notice a lot of long COVID symptoms. I did take the 2 doses of Moderna in October, and that's when it really kicked in. So I have no idea. Is it long COVID? Is it long vaccine? I don't know. Would I get the vaccine again? No, I wouldn't. I'm not anti-vax at all. I've gotten non-mRNA vaccine since then, but I think the vaccine may have had something to do with it. Maybe because I had just gotten over COVID recently, maybe my immune system couldn't take it. Again, I have no idea. But I am, you see saw my cat's paw up here down there. He's on my lap. After the vaccine, I started experiencing some very weird symptoms. Like 3 days later, my left arm was tingling. The back of my neck was tingling. It was almost like my entire body was vibrating, I remember. My blood pressure was up. I felt like I was having a stroke. I truly did. I drove to the ER and pulled in, but was like, I don't know if I want to pay ER prices with insurance. So I kind of had a sense, maybe it's not that serious. Drove back, called the squad. They ran a few tests. They said, hey, everything's okay. I didn't feel okay. It was weird, And then I traveled after that. And I was going to see a concert, AJR concert, great man, by the way. And I went to urgent care to get a COVID test because that was when you had to get one before that. Because I didn't have 2 vaccinations, so they wouldn't let me in with just that. So I just had one. So I had to get the COVID test. And they said your blood pressure is really high. Like it was almost 200 over something else. Can't remember the other number, the lower number. But they said, we don't know if we can even let you leave. So I'm like, oh, shoot. They did let me leave. I did go to the concert. I drove around. I didn't have a lot of supplements with me, so I bought some beetroot, which did help lower my blood pressure. But I also had this weird smell the whole time in my mouth, in my nose, when I was on this trip. And something was just weird. And then ever since that time, for the longest time, I just had a general fatigue, some brain fog. I couldn't really get motivated to do things. It was ultimately milder than a lot of long COVID that I hear about. I could exercise, but something was different. Like I couldn't do it as much. I was always sore. Like I was perpetually sore. It was almost like I was just kind of perpetually tired, like this underlying tiredness. Something felt off mentally. There were those vibrations that I would feel occasionally. My blood pressure was naturally up. It's almost like my brain was weird. Things that I had taken that would help my brain previously didn't seem to help anymore. They seemed to even make things worse a little bit. Like coffee seemed to make my brain like not focus as much. Caffeine, I cut back on caffeine because of that. I had taken methylphenidate, Ritalin, prior to that because I was diagnosed with adult ADHD a year earlier, and it helped me tremendously. But it even made me feel weird. It was just like something was going off, you know? And like I said, it was fairly mild. I still kept exercising. I still kept up a lot of the things, but it just felt very different. And I would have these, and maybe you can relate to this. I'd love if you shared some of your stories on my comments. I would have like these 2-week periods where I just felt totally fatigued. Like my body temperature would rise. Like my temperature was up to almost like 99 point something. My body temperature would be in the 99s for no reason. And I would feel like I would have brain fog. I would have vibrations. I would feel super tired. And I would always do COVID tests thinking, oh, maybe I have COVID again, but I didn't. Very weird. My own hypothesis, again, just my hypothesis, is maybe I was exposed to something, COVID or another virus, and my body was then reacting. I have no idea what it was. It was very weird. And I would get those probably about every quarter. I would get a 2-week period when I would go through that. And it just seemed to kind of like I just had to kind of get through it, you know? So that's my experience. Like I said, the biggest thing was I was always sore. It's almost like I never made progress when exercising. It was weird. Like I never made progress like I used to. Like I wouldn't gain muscle like I used to. I wouldn't like be able to gain mileage in terms of running like I used to. So I would still run, but it was a chore. Like everything was a chore. Any progress was a chore. So that's my story. And I want to share the 3 things that really seem to make a difference. And these are 3 things that I literally tried a year ago, almost a year ago to this date. When I had just had my last kind of 2-week, weird, down, tired period. I tried these 3 things, and I think they made a difference because I have not had one of those periods since May of last year. And since then, coffee has impacted me positively. Caffeine's impacting me positively again. I'm taking methylphenidate again. I'm motivated. I don't get sore all the time. So here's number 1, and this is the thing that I think made the biggest difference, and it is fasting. Now, I've intermittently fasted for probably the last 8-9 years. I typically don't eat during the day, then I eat one meal. But I had never done a just pure water fast. Now, by water, I mean I allow black coffee and plain black tea. But I'd never done a water fast before. Never. I'd never done a multi-day water fast. So I decided, because I'd read research related to fasting and autophagy, which is when the body breaks down old cells. And when the body breaks down old cells, it breaks down the diseased older cells first. And the hypothesis, at least, is that by doing this, you're going to clear out cells that might be impacted by COVID and also clear out the spike protein, which is a big part of what makes COVID problematic for the body. There's also potential immune benefits for fasting. There's also mitochondrial benefits. So if you're looking at some of the hypotheses about what causes long COVID, these are some of the things that people are throwing out there. Spike protein sticking around, hiding in the body, mitochondrial dysfunction, immune issues, inflammatory problems. So fasting actually addresses almost all these issues, the autophagy that happens through fasting. Now, here's what I did. I love food. I lost 50 pounds over 15 years ago, and have kept it off. I have to regulate my food very carefully, but I love food. And while I intermittently fast, it's hard for me to just drink nothing but water, black coffee, or black tea. But I did it because I'm like, I want to feel better. And almost instantly, I felt better. After my first, so what I did was I did a 48-hour fast, essentially. So what I did was I eat in the evenings. That's how I do my intermittent fasting schedule. So what I did was I ate, let's say, my last meal ended, let's say, at 7 o'clock. I fasted until 7 o'clock the day after is what I did. So I got a full 48 hours in. And so essentially it means for me, because I intermittently fast, I only skipped one meal. I had to skip my meal on the day that I completely consumed no food. So it was actually not conceptually that hard for me, because like I said, it's just one meal for me based on what I do. But it's tough. It was tough. So I would stop eating, let's say at 7 o'clock, let's say on Monday. I would fast all day Tuesday, and then most of the day Wednesday until dinner time rolled around on Wednesday, and then I would have a meal. I would start with something a little lighter, like I might drink some kefir, maybe have a little coffee with some cocoa, and maybe a little half and half, something like that, some stevia maybe. Like I said, it really helped me. I tend to do these 48-hour fasts now every quarter or so is what I do now. For a while I was doing it every month, and then now I do it every quarter. Seems to help. Every time I do it, I feel a little bit better afterwards. So I highly recommend doing that. Obviously, consult a doctor. If you don't eat for 48 hours, could bring up some issues. So make sure you give that a try. Now you might say, but I'm going to be tired. I'm already tired. Well, it's kind of paradoxical, right? I had more energy while fasting than I have other days. And a good friend of mine, he lost a bunch of weight. He water fasted for 2 weeks, and he told me he had more energy during those 2 weeks than he had probably the previous 3 years from overeating. So paradoxically, you might get more energy from fasting. Now, the tips that I can give you for that, like I said, I did black coffee, I did black tea, herbal teas, as long as they're not like, they don't have any sweetener in them of any kind. Or I didn't do fruit-based teas that had like actual whole fruit in them, because I'm sure there's some sugar in there. You don't want to have any sort of significant calories. You don't want to have any proteins. You don't want to have any sugars. That's going to give your body a sense that you're eating food. One little trick I did, which is going to transition into number 2, is I created a little thing I called Poor Man's Pop. It's a type of soda that I made. It's not going to be amazing, but I'll explain it here with tip number 2. The second thing that I did was I tried to make my body more alkaline. So one of the hypotheses related to long COVID is that there's a dysfunction. Your body's in a sense becoming more acidic. Your cells are in a state of acidosis. And that made sense to me, and I'll tell you why it made sense to me, because exercise was weird for me after long COVID. It was very weird. Like I said, I was perpetually sore, always sore. I never recovered from the soreness, no matter what. Like, I was always sore. I had trouble gaining muscle. I had trouble recovering. I had trouble even making gains when it came to exercise. So I decided I'm going to make my body more alkaline, do my best to do that. So I did this a couple ways. First thing is I started adding some bicarbonates to my daily routine, my daily supplements. To give you an idea, the cheapest form of bicarbonate is sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda. I mean, it's dirt cheap. You can get it like pounds of it for like $5 or less. And what I was doing was, prior to exercise, my cat's in my lap, as you can see. He's going to say hi. Hi, Coconut. Prior to exercise, I would actually take some bicarbonates. At first, it caused me a little bit stomach upset because I wasn't used to it. I actually would run, and thank goodness I ran in neighborhoods where they had porta potties, because they were actually building houses at that time. So I could actually stop there and take care of the side effects, if you know what I mean, right? I would do that. Now, another way, though, and I still do that a little bit. I will. It's weird. If you see me at the gym, I'm pulling out this little baggie of white powder. It's not anything bad, I promise. It's actually a mix of, in fact, let me give you some examples here to have some props. Sorry, Coconut. I've got my sodium bicarbonate baking soda, and I have my potassium bicarbonate, which is just the potassium form. And I do that because if you increase your sodium, you want to increase your potassium as well. So by having both forms, I'm getting both electrolytes in my diet rather than just favoring sodium. Both of those, of course, will, neutralize acid. Now, another way, probably the best way, honestly, if you want to make your body more alkaline, is to increase the content of citrates in your diet, supplementally. Citric acid, the way it's processed in the body, causes your body to be more alkaline. In fact, people who have kidney disease are often taking citrates, okay? because it makes the body more alkaline, it makes the urine more alkaline. So what I was doing was, and this relates to my previous one, is what I'll do is I have some citric acid here. I will mix, and I do it the hard way, people. You can buy potassium citrate, you can buy magnesium citrate, you can buy citrates already chemically reacted, I guess is the word. But I got to do it the hard way, okay? Because I had some citric acid sitting around. This is food grade citric acid. It's very acidic, but I will take it, take a little teaspoon of it, just drink it down. And then I will chase it with some potassium bicarbonate, and then it's just like you drank pop in your stomach is what it feels like. And I'm creating, through chemical reaction, citric acid plus potassium bicarbonate is creating potassium citrate, or sodium bicarbonate is creating sodium citrate. And getting citrates in my diet. Now, this stuff can actually replace lemon juice in recipes. So what I'll do sometimes is, if I really just kind of want a fruit-based treat, I don't eat a lot of sugar, but I will take like some lemon juice, put it a little bit in the bottom of a cup, put some citric acid in there. It makes it really lemony-like. Then I'll add some stevia and some water, make some lemonade, and then I will take a little bit of potassium or sodium bicarbonate, create those citrates. The poor man's pop I was talking about actually is just simply mixing citric acid and the bicarbonates. You mix them, they foam up. It's the old volcano experiment, right? It's like mixing vinegar and baking soda. Similar reaction, right? Except for acetic acids and vinegar. This is citric acid. And it foams up. And guess what? It is like pop because it's creating bubbles. It doesn't taste amazing, but I joke, it tastes somewhat like pop, and you can have it during your fast. Yes, I know I'm crazy. Just deal with it. When I want to solve a problem, I'm going to solve the problem. That's the basis. That's why a hypnotist is telling you this, because if I have a problem, I want to solve it, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to solve it. That's my goal, right? I don't believe I have to stay defeated, and I'm not going to. So that's number 2. So let's talk about number 3. And this one's going to seem weird. And again, I don't know if really any of these have impacted me. The mind and body interact. I'm not even saying there's research on this. But number 3 is actually, weirdly enough, mouth tape. And you're probably like, what? All you do is you take a little bit of this tape. This is specifically designed for it, but you could just use any sort of tape that's kind of clear. You just put this over your mouth at night. And what it does is it prevents mouth breathing. So mouth breathing is not a very healthy form of breathing. In fact, there's actually an entire book written about how most of our problems come from mouth breathing. How you get a whole book on that, I don't know, but kudos to the guy that wrote a book on that can be boiled down to the sentence, breathe out of your nose, not out of your mouth. But I realized I breathe out of my mouth a lot at night. And you would think it doesn't really matter, but breathing out of your mouth doesn't take in as much oxygen. Now, forcing nose breathing by putting mouth tape on actually has some interesting benefits. So there's actually a lot out there on the internet about the importance of breathing in getting over long COVID, because breathing can help you heal your vagus nerve. Okay, it relaxes you. Breathing can, for example, let me get my term right, because I always confuse the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So it supports the parasympathetic activity, meaning the relaxing activity. So it can calm the vagus nerve, it can calm the parasympathetic nervous system, activate that rather, to make you more calm. It also can cause, increased oxygen levels, so your blood flows better. A lot of people speculate that the more neurological issues from long COVID could be as a result of vagus nerve inflammation, which in turn impacts the brain and the rest of the nervous system. So something as simple as mouth tape probably did help me. Now, let me just say a couple things. Some of you are like, oh my gosh, if I put tape over my mouth, I'm afraid I'm going to die. If you think that, don't do it. If you have any sort of issues, I would talk to a doctor before you use mouth tape personally, if you're scared about that. I don't have any problems. I've used it now for, like I said, about a year. I'm just used to it. The only issue I have is that my tape falls off a lot in the middle of the night, and I've had to reapply it. And my girlfriend is finding mouth tape all over the bed occasionally, and I have to assure her that I promise I'm not going crazy, and I will clean up all the mouth tape. Those are the main issues. Otherwise, it's been fine. And what I found too is I've been training myself to breathe out of my nose. So by using mouth tape for the last year, I'm starting to mouth breathe on my own. Now, like I said, these are the 3 things that I think made a big difference. And I'm sharing these with you because the struggle to get over long COVID is real. And, you know, doctors, medical experts, governments have totally downplayed and denied that this is a real thing. And I've been on forums, subreddits, Facebook groups of people who are absolutely impacted by everything that I just mentioned. In some cases, they're much worse than anything I've gone through. I admit what I've gone through is very mild. So I really hope this could help you. If you have any insights into anything I mentioned, please share. If you have any other insights into it, please comment, share that as well. Depending on the response to this video, I might go into some other things that help me. There are quite a few supplements that I've taken that I think have positively impacted me that I also want to go over at some point. I kind of listed about 16 things that I think have helped me, but these are the 3 that I believe have been the most impactful.